So hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Best Practices for Farm Tours, Workshops, and Farm-Based Education. My name is Rachel Callahan, and I am the statewide agritourism coordinator with the University of California's Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, otherwise known as UC SAREP. This webinar is part of a series of webinars called Agritourism and Direct Sales, Best Practices in COVID Times and Beyond, organized by UC SAREP's Agritourism program, a part of the University of California's Division of Agriculture and Natural Resources. This series offers free virtual trainings in how to build your capacity to sell direct to consumers and build agritourism businesses. We have 3 webinars remaining in this series: online sales options and methods, creative marketing and staying connected with social media, and community collaborations, farm trails, tourism partners, and more. So to learn more about the remaining webinars, to register, or to view recordings from past webinars, you can visit the website that was just posted into the chat. So for today's topic, farm tours, workshops, and farm-based education, they have the potential to be a great component of your agritourism business. Depending on your goals and approach, they can be a way to generate income, connect with potential customers, and engage the public, getting them excited about local food systems. That being said, to be successful, these activities require careful planning and assessment of your farm and your staff's attributes, resources, and skills, including your time, amongst many other considerations. So let's hear from some folks who are doing this work on the ground. First up, we are going to hear from Bill MacElroy from Monte-Bellaria Farm in the Russian River Appalachian. Monte-Bellaria specializes in estate-grown lavender, bees, and olive oil, which are used to make essential oil, soaps, fragrances, and culinary products. They also invite the public onto their farm in a variety of ways, including farm tours and educational workshops. So now I'd like to invite Bill to take the floor.
Great. Thanks, Rachel, and good afternoon, everybody. When I was asked to do this, I was actually interested in the COVID angle because it gave me some time to reflect. And last year, we had already been sort of going down a road for managing the number of people that were coming to the farm at any one time, because our main mission is to sell an experience, not necessarily have a whole bunch of thousands and thousands of people. And in fact, having huge numbers of people is antithetical to the calm and relaxing nature of what we wanted to provide. So when COVID came along and imposed restrictions, like how many people can be there at a time, social distancing, how many people can be, in the farm store, these all actually launched us in a direction which we were already going, but convinced us that what we were doing, we needed to do more of. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to split what I'm going to talk about into 2 parts. The first part is farm tours and visits, and the second part is something that we've found has been very good at bringing in more people and having them engage and forming a personal relationship with our clientele, which is seminars and education. So I'll share my screen now, and I hope you're all seeing that. And so first of all, I want to say that what I'm going to tell you is very specific to our type of farming. There's a lot of people who do different things, who have different agritourism models, but I just want to tell you that from a general farm standpoint, what we've learned and what might be beneficial to you as you're planning your own farm visit policies. So the first thing I want to point out is that a lot of people, when they get into agritourism for the first part, they say, whoa, wouldn't it be great to have people come out and actually pick strawberries or dig potatoes or, help mulch, that sort of thing. Well, what we've learned pretty quickly is that the agri-tourists don't really want to do farm work. What they want to do is they want to simulate an idealized notion of being on a farm with no dirt, no sweat, and no actual work. And I'll leave out the no smelly stuff as well, but they don't want that either. So let me see if I can. I seem to be. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to go over just a couple of slides is how to create an idealized farm tour experience. And in our case, what we found is that visitors really want to feel like they are in a farm environment, but in a very clean, safe environment. So let's go through some things that we found really make that experience worthwhile. First of all, they really want things to be interesting, beautiful, and photography worthy. Many guests would rather photograph themselves using the farm as a backdrop rather than actually experiencing ag work. And in fact, during the summer months when we're in high bloom, many of our guests actually bring costume changes so that they can be photographed, in front of the lavender with various, different dresses and all the rest of these things. So it's very much about being in nature without being affected by the work that it's needed to create it. We also found that creating beautiful scenes or interesting artistic features, such as, for instance, the old barn, the old tractor, the windmill, the duck pond, etc., are really huge attractions for people who want to come. They really want to walk around, they want to have photos in front of something interesting. And so, once again, it's them projecting themselves into the farm environment without necessarily being there. Um, we also have found that only about 30% of our visitors want a guided tour. The rest of them want self-guided tours who just want to wander around, find interesting things to look at and photograph, and they aren't really interested in the history and all the rest. So what I would suggest is make sure that you have either a map or a guide or something that allows people to explore on their own without necessarily having to have a guide. Like I said, even though we only charge $5 for a guided tour, which lasts about 15 minutes, only about 30, maybe 35% actually take that tour. So the other thing that we found that people are really interested in is the history of the farm. They're very interested in how long have you been here? What was the reason for this type of farm? One of the questions that I often get is, what made you decide on lavender instead of grapes, for instance? And so we have a story about how actually about 18 years ago, uh, we're beekeepers and we started with having bees on the property. And I decided to plant a small area of the farm, about a quarter of an acre, to lavender, primarily as food for the bees. And we experimented at that time with 5 different varietals of lavender. And what happened is that we found that one was particularly hardy. It bloomed great. The bees loved it. It was very healthy. And we have some lavenders now that are going on 18 years old on the property. But it was all because we were planting for the bees, and we did it in an experimental mode. So as you are planning what you're going to plant, what you're going to do, I would recommend, before you actually even open the doors, that you take some time to experiment with things that are going to really last, be beautiful, that are going to live on and on. Because the last thing you want to do, particularly if you're in any form of planting situation, you don't want to have everything planted every single year, unless of course it's a annual plant. The other large thing that people are really curious about is, what is the background and experience of the farmer and the farm workers? They want to know, why did you get into this? What makes you an expert? How how can you help me learn about my own situation? So a lot of the visitors, whether they're taking a tour or not, always come with a basket of questions on how can I take some of the farm expertise that you are demonstrating here, and how can I take that home? So in order to be able to answer that question, I would suggest having a pre deliberated script of, gee, where do you live? What is your soil like? What are your conditions? How are the neighbors going to be really excited about you bringing bees in, et cetera, et cetera? And then go from there. They really respond very, very positively to you being able to customize the experience to their own life situation. Um, what makes this farm successful? Um, there is a notion that farms in America are in deep financial trouble, which, given last year, yes, they are. But even before that, there is a expectation that farms are basically living on the edge of starvation. And I think what makes them feel a lot better is if you can tell them the secret of how your farm is actually going to make money, it's going to appeal to people, how you do outreach, the types of products that you make. Are you selling your products? Are you making value added products out of them? Anything that shows that you have some sort of an economic model that stresses agricultural success. Because that then gives them the confidence, okay, well, if I tell somebody else to come here, they're going to be here next year. And people have said that. We want to go someplace where we know we can come every year and have a wonderful experience. And finally, and as Carmen will tell you probably in her section, anything to do with animals, particularly baby animals, is a huge hit. Now, on our particular farm, we don't have baby animals, but we do have bees. We have all kinds of wildlife. We have wild turkeys, we have bobcats, we have lizards, we have all sorts of things. And we encourage, particularly the kids, to go out and see how many lizards they can count, and this becomes a wonderful game, and the kids love it. We also have a contest of how many turkey feathers can you collect, and that also turns out to be a very, very happy thing, and the kids go home really enthusiastic, and sometimes the kids would rather stay than leave. And so it's very important to have these things already pre planned. So the next thing is, when you're on a farm, we all know we've all got dirt roads, we've got gravel, we've got uneven surfaces, etc. But we need to make the outdoors as accessible and comfortable as possible. So easy parking, benches, photo stands, picnic areas, clean restrooms, all of these things are really, really important, because people want that no hassle experience of, like, I'm out in the country, but I've got all of the services and all the comforts of being at home. So as you're planning your walks, your facilities, your toilet access, etc., these are all things that people constantly comment on as, this is a good place to be because we feel like, we're very comfortable here. And we also have found that lots and lots of people, as a part of their quote farm experience, want to have a picnic. So having some sort of an area where people can enjoy their food, have a place that they can sit down. We have a small pond that's shaded, that people actually, when we're not selling timed tickets, they'll sit there for an hour and a half and just sit there in nature and chat, and this is family time, and they really enjoy it. So that's another thing I would suggest. Another thing, and once again, I will thank Farm Trails for helping us with some of the things that we need to create, is we need to create a calm, safe, clean, and pastoral environment for the people who come. We need to limit the number of people. no loud music, no drones, no dogs, no smoking, etc., because all of those things sort of break the spell. You're trying to simulate this very idealistic or ideal farm environment, and having loud music and drones and all the rest of the stuff, it breaks the spell and people leave with a less than positive experience. um, and to that point, many people think of the country as being quiet and crowd free. So being able to maintain that is important. We limit the number of people per hour through prepaid timed admissions. Not everybody does this. A lot of people just allow walk-ins, but for places like us, particularly when we have a season where we're in high demand, we could have 2,000 people show up and we don't have parking. We can't possibly, accommodate all those people. The neighbors would go crazy. The police would shut us down, etc. So consider, particularly in high season, having some sort of a prepaid ticket, and try to eliminate things that are loud or odorous. Now, we have some very nice neighbors who love to spread manure in August and September, and that's not ideal for people who are coming for a lavender aroma walkabout. But anything that is in your control, you should try to do it, and make sure that any hazards are clearly marked as off limits. We go down to actually putting up signs like "Caution, sharp farm tools do not handle" on our racks of tools, because people wander through the barns and into the sheds, and it's hard to control people. And but you do need to keep yourself from trouble by making sure that you've got adequate signage. And finally, in this part, people really like to have takeaways. They want to have agriculturally produced, ready to buy things that they can bring back as some sort of a souvenir. Uh, we do pre-cut bouquets, but other people do vegetables, fruits, produce, value-added products like jams and preserves and pickles and things, and souvenirs. People really like this stuff, and they want to have the feeling that they are buying something that is estate produced. So if you have, and by the way, you don't need to have even a little farm store like this. You can have a cart. In fact, when we first started out, one of our first farm trail weekends, and in fact, I believe it was our first farm trail weekends, we were actually selling our products out of the back of our pickup truck for the farm trails weekend, and it was very authentic and very natural, and we've tried to keep that feel. It also provides a lasting connection to the agricultural experience. People want to buy things that they know that were here. We sell our olive oil, and we're now selling our olive oil all over the world because people say, "Oh my God, I went to this farm and they're making their own olive oil, and you should try it." And so we're shipping internationally for olive oil as well. And a lot of guests like a branded remembrance of their visit, such as T-shirts, hats. We sell things like kitchen towels and stuff, but something that they can then give to somebody along with one of the other gifts that says, "This is from the farm that I visited." And of course, they will post pictures of the farm and the things that they bought and all the rest, and it really completes the whole farm experience, that you've been there, you've taken pictures in the field, you've come in, you've bought some products, and now you are basically a member of our farm family. So that's what we really try to do as we're creating a farm visit. So now I'd like to turn to the workshops and educational seminars aspect. We started what we call a Sunday seminar series about, well, it was last year actually. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we didn't get off to a great start. But this year, it's coming roaring back. And we had our first one yesterday, as a matter of fact. And we were 60% sold out. And the people who came were very, very positive. They stayed a long time. They brought picnics. They shopped in the farm store after the seminar. So all in all, it's a very nice way of getting people to the farm. And there's a whole bunch of people who want to actually have an educational component to what their agricultural experience is. They love being in the fields, but they really want to learn. And so that's why we're doing these seminars, and they're turning out to be quite popular. Uh, some tips on making sure that you are giving a good seminar experience. First of all, make sure your educator knows the topic and has experience in teaching. We've had a number of people who said that they've gone to ag seminars and the person kind of said, well, this is the first time I've ever really done this and I really don't know much about this, but here I'm going to tell you anyway. Don't do that. You've got to have somebody who really knows how to run a classroom helping you lead your seminars. And we think that publishing a list of topics well in advance helps with publicity. When we have certain things such as beekeeping or planting for pollinators or what to plant in the month of May, those sorts of things have a huge number of people who sign up almost immediately. We also reach out to gardening clubs and other things that help their members know that there's an agriculture educational experience that's available. The agricultural tips that they can then take home is extremely popular. So, gardening, beekeeping, plant propagation are all things that people love. And these topics also involve what I call a mild hands on experience. And this involves, for instance, when we're doing our plant propagation, they actually go out and we teach them how to take cuttings from woody plants. And they're out in the field, and we aren't just letting them go. We're telling them exactly how to cut so they're not damaging themselves or the plants. And then we teach them how to strip the leaves off, to create a cane, to put it in a pod. So those are things that they really like. And then they get to take home a cutting, which hopefully in a couple of weeks will root, and then they will have a plant of their own. But the bottom line is, we're not just giving them some things to do, but we're also giving them something to take home that basically like is a product of their agricultural experience. So these are why a lot of these are very popular. So the workshop experience has to be personal. The person who is running it really needs to be engaged and engaging, and I would limit it to no more than 10 to 20 people. Most of our seminars are limited to 10 because we are doing work, and of course, with COVID, we don't have the room to have 30, 50 people, and we wouldn't want it anyway. Because once again, just like if you've got loud noises or dogs barking or all the rest, what you're doing is you're breaking the spell of being on a farm. And as a part of that, and some people will take exception to this, but for our seminars and educational experiences, we only do adults only. And that's because we used to have kids, and the kids were impatient, they were bored, they would act out, and they would create a distraction, not just for their parents, but also for the other attendees. So we've gone to an adults only approach on this, unless it's, of course, it's a parent-child activity, like we do some wreath making and that sort of thing. And in that case, if your child is involved in the process, then that's fine. It's giving them something to do. But on a more adult level, we have gone with adults only. We also create outlines with specific points of attendee interaction. So we have, okay, now we're going to do this, now we're going to do that, now we're going to do this, so that we make sure that everybody is included. We ask what your background is, what your experience is, how long you've been doing whatever it is we're talking about. And that gives everybody in the group a sense of community. And we find that that's also very helpful. Make sure that there are physical handouts, educational materials, or other takeaways. We find that people refer to those and will call us back, well, in some cases, years after attending a seminar to ask about something I saw on the sheet that you gave me, and I'm wondering if that also applies to roses, that type of thing. And on those sheets, make sure that you've got your contact information, because that turns out to be a really good source of long-lasting educational opportunity. And finally, coffee and light refreshments are always a hit. People like that a lot. And I'm at the end of my time for talking about tours and seminars, but here's my contact information if anybody wants to follow up with questions. And at this point, I believe we have 5 minutes for questions and answers.
All right, thank you, Bill, so much. That was really, really informative. And we do have some questions coming in, and Laura is going to ask them to you.
All right. Yeah, we have quite a few questions. So I'm going to start with this one. About how many visitors do you get each year?
Last year, we had approximately 3,600 visitors.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
For any farm, but yeah, but and you know what? You can only do that if you manage the traffic and the flow. If 3,600 people showed up all at once, you'd be out of business. The police would make sure you're out of business.
Yeah, so you had mentioned that during busy times of year, you limit the number of visitors. What platform do you use for online registration for people to sign up for visits?
We used to use Eventbrite, and we created tickets, and that allows you to do some things, but we found that it's a difficult platform to navigate. So we found a new platform that we're really happy with. It's called Ticket Tailor, as in sewing tailor. And their platform is very easy to use. And they have all sorts of extra functions, and it's so easy, and they're very fast. Their customer support is outstanding. I mean, I'd write to Eventbrite and say, this isn't working, and 3 weeks later they say, yeah, well, we'll put that in the queue for later development. But Ticket Tailor, I actually wrote them on Easter Sunday, and I had a response with the correct answer within 2 hours on Easter Sunday. So I'm not making a commercial plug. I have no stake in them, but if you're gonna do it, I mean, don't do what I did, which is use something that's really clunky for a couple of years.
So you'd mentioned that only about a third of your visitors opt for a guided tour. So one person was wondering how you monetize your self-guided visitors.
Well, actually, for the most part, the self-guided people, we don't monetize that. But what we do is we've got the farm store. And if they go out and they walk around and they have a pleasant experience and they sit on the benches and they watch the fish jumping and they watch the bees flying and all the rest of the stuff, they come into the farm store and they more than make up for, any visit, cost. And the actual farm tours that we do sell, the $5 we charge is nominal. But once again, it's establishing a personal relationship. And if somebody takes the tour, the guided tour, they probably spend about 25% more in the farm store than the people who just walk around. So it's a relationship thing and building, trust in a part of the community.
And how much do you charge for the workshops and seminars that you organize?
Well, we used to charge $10 per adult, and we did a lot of business and all the rest. But then we started to see some other people who were charging up to $110 per seminar with all sorts of stuff, and we said, wow, maybe we're leaving some money on the table. So we've increased it to $25, and there was no drop off in demand at all. So I think that, particularly if you're doing a competent job of something people are interested in, you can probably charge 40 or 50. We're going to leave it at 25 because I want them to walk around and come in the farm store too. So,
And how long do those tend to be?
probably about an hour and 15 minutes. We advertise them for an hour, but we give them an extra, walk around, show them the greenhouses, take extra time to answer personal questions, etc.
Let's see. Another question we had was, are there other agritourism offerings that you've considered or you've tried out? And, for example, field trips or farm dinners, and why did you decide not to use them?
Well, there's a whole host of things that we've explored, such as farm dinners, all sorts of different things involving food and events and things. And the problem is, I don't know where everybody is located, but we're in a very regulated county in California, and it's almost impossible to meet all of the regulatory requirements for serving food. So we don't serve food. We don't have bands. We don't do, events. We don't have catering trucks and things like that because the requirements and the regulations are so heavy that it discourages. And other thing is overnight stays and that sort of thing. And by the way, if it weren't the regulations that would kill it, the insurance will. So we're sticking to a very narrow line. And by the way, and there's a whole bunch of people out there that are doing U-pick. U-pick operations are great if you're using your hands to do it, but if you need a sharp pair of scissors or an electric shears or something like that, forget it. Your insurance, you won't get it. So those are some of the things that have steered us in one direction and away from others.
Mm-hmm. I think we've maybe blown through our 5 minutes already. We actually have quite a few questions that we haven't had time to get to.
Yeah, so we are gonna move on, but if your question was not answered now or you think of another one, we are gonna have a little bit more time at the end and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Thank you for your great engagement, everybody. So our next speaker is Carmen Snyder, Executive Director of Sonoma County Farm Trails. Sonoma County Farm Trails is a nonprofit organization that has worked for decades to promote farmers and to educate the public about the importance of supporting local agriculture. Their mission is to ensure the continuing economic viability of Sonoma County agriculture by instilling an appreciation of ag as a vital part of our community and lifestyle. So without any further ado, I will invite Carmen to take it from here.
Hi, y'all. I'm so happy to be here. Bill, thank you for the fabulous presentation. I can shave a couple minutes off of mine to allow more Q&A time at the end. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Ooh, not that. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. There we go. Okay. So at Farm Trails, we, as Rachel mentioned, have been pioneers in agritourism since 1973. This is the original Farm Trails mapping guide that listed all the farm stands and what they offered in the county.
Carmen, I'm sorry to interrupt. We
Yes.
can't actually see your screen.
Oh. Uh-oh. Let's see.
There she is. Thank
Yeah.
you. Beautiful.
I've just been scrolling through. In a second. So let's see. We'll go here. Here's the original mapping guide. And so we still produce one, and it's turned into a much more extensive guidebook of the offerings in Sonoma County. Over the years, however, Farm Trails started to organize seasonal tours for the public because it was not cost efficient for our farmers to staff farm stands all the time. And the public over the years has been increasingly eager to get out on the farms, not just to buy products, but for the type of experiences that Bill has been talking about. And so we started organizing seasonal tours where the public can taste their way through Sonoma County. They can explore, they can have experiences, they can learn new skills and have fun and connect directly on site with the land, animals, the farmers and producers, and ultimately get educated about the true cost of well-grown food and the importance of supporting local food systems. And then for our members, it's a way to connect directly with customers, to promote and grow their businesses, increase on-site sales. So these are some of the marketing materials from our primary seasonal tours, the Blossoms, Bees, and Barnyard Babies in the spring, and Weekend Along the Farm Trails in the fall. And for these tours, they're self-guided tours, meaning self-guided that you don't, you RSVP through Farm Trails, sign up, and you can tour any of the farms that are open that weekend, unless they have, specific RSVPs within our organized tours. And we've had as many as 10,000 people out on the trails in one weekend. And then this is the holiday effort that we do in the winter. So we always encourage people, like if you get to one stop, like say one of 60 stops around the county and the parking's full, look at your program, head on to the next place, and maybe spiral back. This is from a pumpkin patch this past fall. So we make sure to communicate with the public some of the etiquette of going out on a farm. Bill covered a lot of this, so I'm not going to reread all of it. One thing I will certainly make mention of, though, is that depending on where you are, cell phone coverage might not be great. So be sure to tell people, to be clear about their directions before they come out. Drive slowly, wear good walking shoes with closed toes, because these are working farms. No pets at any time, because some people think, oh, I can just leave my dogs in my car, but that can be really stressful to farm animals. So I'm happy to share these slides with the group if y'all want to lift them for your own purposes. So we provide programs that give really detailed listings, the address, the phone number, the activities that are offered, little write-ups about, little blurbs about each farm. And we also kind of break them out in different ways. So, people can say, oh, where can I do tasting? Or I'm really interested in U-Pick, or who's got a tour or workshop? And then I'm just gonna give you a visual tour of what some of our farms offer throughout the county. So this is Singing Frogs Farm, and they are doing amazing work with carbon farming and no-till. So this is a tour at their place. Green Star Farm, I remember this day. On this day, they were giving a tour of the barn, and this is spring, Blossoms, Bees, and Barnyard Babies, and a baby lamb was born while on the tour. And that also happened one time at a water buffalo farm. They saw a baby water buffalo being born. So talk about an experience that you remember. Ixoma Farm, working with horses. They get to groom and learn about rescue horses. Bees and Blooms, another lavender farm where they have a lavender labyrinth and a really extensive pollinator garden that they give tours of. Redwood Hill Farm in Grayton, you can try your hand at goat milking. McClellan's Dairy, trying cow milking. Oh, Monte-Bellaria in the lavender. Full Bloom Flower Farm, they did wreath making demos and little, I'm forgetting what you're calling them, but the headdress, you can make your own flower crown. The Goat Farm, they've done soap making demos, hands-on activities. This is New Carpati Farm, teaching people how to grow their own shiitake mushroom on logs. Cheese making at Bohemian Creamery. This is Joel Salatin, regenerative ranching up at Terra Firma Farms, giving an really intensive educational tour and walk on their property for rotational grazing. Tilted Shed Cider, they did cider tasting and cider making. And super popular are the U-Picks, and that was a great recommendation from Bill. A lot easier if it's not a dangerous activity with shears. So the apples, strawberries, blueberries, dig potatoes, pick pumpkins, Christmas trees. And of course, some of these slides are old, but this one is from this past Christmas season. And I'll just pause here to make mention of, it's possible, and Bill's done a great job, and many of our farmers have adapted so incredibly to COVID times. And what that requires is a lot of signage, a lot of hand sanitizing, getting really familiar with the guidelines, which are dynamic and fluid and changing frequently. But with the best practices, it has been doable. And even the Christmas tree farms this year, they had better sales than they have in many, many previous years. Largely, I think, because people were wanting a little more cheer this year, and a lot of them sold out earlier in the season. But with the, being sheltering in place, farms have been a great way for people to get out and get fresh air and have family activities that are uplifting. And Bill made mention of this, and it is a true thing, that the farms of ours that get the most visitors are the ones who have baby animals. So that might not be your goal to have, lots and lots of traffic. And if you do have baby animals, for sure the families will come. Sometimes, like Terra Firma and Glen Hill would have several hundred visitors in one day. And it's a precious experience, of course, for kids and adults alike, especially from the Bay Area, from the city, who've never had contact with farm animals, to feel safe and guided in connecting with them. And this is another kind of little worksheet that we provide showing a breakdown of the offerings. And a few that I didn't mention, just to give you some more ideas, are jam making classes, fleece cleaning workshop, grooming horses, regenerative farming tour, fruit tree talk, hedgerow planting workshop, compost pile making workshop, bath salt demo, wool spinning, a lecture or a workshop on creating a carbon farm plan, flower arranging, learning about rescue animals, educational panels such as farmland acquisition, permaculture tips, and then also activities like tractor rides, farm games, scavenger hunts, cooking demos, bean shelling, and more. So the sky's the limit. And I threw a few photos in here to show you some farm stands of all types. And as Bill said, people really like to take home something. So you can, maximize sales by having a farm stand, be at the back of the truck or a tiny little cart. This is Bohemian Creamery, delicious cheese tasting. This is out at Foggy River Farm. Oak Hill Farm, one of the old farm stands, that's the inside. Terra Firma Farms, they have a great little farm stand there. And sometimes on our tours, we also guide people to farmers markets. We have restaurants that'll participate. They'll pack a picnic lunch for the day that people can take out on the tours. And as Bill mentioned too, for sure, we also make mention of, in our guide, of where you can picnic, where there might be a food truck, what the close farm to table restaurants are. And it's good to know your local shops too, because when people come to your farm, they'll probably be asking, well, what can I do next, or what's close by that you might be able to direct them to. And I'm gonna, let's see, try to get out of this and go show you our website real quick, if I can jump to it. Yes, I can. So this is our website, farmtrails.org, and you can always search our website to find our members and upcoming events. You can sign up for our newsletter here. Ellen, our project manager, does a great job of producing seasonal newsletters that tell you what's happening. And what we do to market for our members for these tours and seasonally year round is, we use Facebook, we use Instagram, we have thousands of followers there. We promote through our newsletters. We send out press releases. We try to get radio interviews. We put up flyers in non-COVID times when we have, really dedicated weekends, which we haven't been able to do this past year. And we also make use of event calendar listings throughout the Bay Area to post the weekend events. And a few more things, I guess, that I'll make mention of for some considerations for you. I'm not sure how to stop sharing my screen. Oh, there we go. I see it. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. In terms of the public, we send out, when we do these group tours, we send out, we ask that even though our tours are free, we do ask them to RSVP so that we can capture their email, not for our list, but for future communications with them in case there's any sort of change or an addition, or all of a sudden someone, a tour gets canceled. A cautionary tale that I thought of when Bill was talking is we had a farm in Sonoma, lavender farm, and they just blasted like crazy on social media, and it took off. I mean, I think they had like 10,000 likes and shares, and the highway going into Sonoma was backed up and for miles because of this. Pick your own lavender, cut your own lavender. And so it was really problematic for them to kind of try to dial that back. So that is the benefit of having an RSVP. Even if you don't charge for it, you can keep your finger on the pulse of how many people are coming, and you can also cut it off if it feels like it's getting too big. So we send out a program. Another good thing about having the email is you can send out surveys later. You can ask, how did they find out about you? You can ask how their experience was. You can get testimonials that way. You can also get constructive feedback to make things better. Some questions that you'll have to think about, like Bill mentioned, is insurance, permit, regulations. Can you have music? Can you have food? And then on the member side of thing, when we're talking to our host participants, we make sure to remind them to have really good signage, to staff up, especially if they're, if it's not intimate and limited, to make sure that you have someone greeting the public, welcoming them, directing them to parking, letting them know if it's full, that they can try back later. And also some farms choose to do a liability waiver. It doesn't have a lot of, they don't have a lot of legs legally, but it can be something that just kind of reminds the people who are on your property that they're a guest on a working farm. And as Bill said, signage, around farm implements or, danger zones, trying to just do everything you can to direct the public to the proper pathways, and not to be, too focused on it or paranoid, but just to take a moment to perhaps have them sign a waiver so that they have a little more consciousness as they're moving about the farm. I think I can stop there and let people ask questions of myself or of Bill.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. There are several questions, so we'll just get right to it.
All right. First question is Sonoma County Farm Trails fully funded through your memberships, or do you have to do additional fundraising or grant writing too?
Good question. We are not even close to fully funded through our memberships. Membership is $175 annually, and typically that pays for the printing of the mapping guide. And not much more. So we have had the great good fortune to be funded by the Gravenstein Apple Fair, our primary annual fundraiser, since 1973 until this past year. And so now we are in the tough spot of not having had our fundraiser, which pretty much like everything that we do is free to the public, and all of the tours we produce, all the marketing, Farm Trails pays for. So we're looking now at grants and other fundraising options until we can bridge the gap to the Apple Fair again.
So there was a question about whether you had some common takeaways from the farms that participate in your farm trails about whether there are any specific mechanisms that really make their agritourism operations successful. So are a lot of them including tour fees, or are they mostly making income through product sales? If there are any common takeaways that you've noticed.
Yeah, I think through the product sales, and like Bill said, the tour fees are pretty nominal, but they seem to increase his product sales. And so I think that having some offerings for the public at a farm stand or in the back of your truck is great, because the people want to shop along the trails, and a lot of our members have just record sales the weekends of the tours. And there's also, you can cross-pollinate with other people, like maybe you could bring someone, who's got cheese, or, I mean, we've had people bring a little pen of baby animals just to have that draw. You can get together with other farmers and maybe either host or go to their site to try to amplify.
One thing I was just going to throw in is that a lot of people, and Farm Trails is brilliant at doing this, is a lot of people drive a long way to get to Sonoma County, and they don't want to do just one thing. The county has done a lot of research about why people visit Sonoma County, and the number one reason is to visit a winery, and then they want to do something else. Well, our thing is we've got t-shirts that say we're something else, but there's a lot of something else's that people want to do. And so what we've done, and some people would think that this is crazy, but we've got a list of other attractions in the area. Raspberry you pick, blueberry you pick, go here, go there. And we've created a PDF. A lot of Farm Trails members, but also some wineries, and people use that to plan a multi-nodal trip, and they really like that. We also put together a list of restaurants, because the question is, we want to go to eat. Where do we go? So we've got that all prepared for people, and we can reference it immediately. And people really like the Farm Trails thing because they're not just doing one thing.
Yeah. Carmen, there's a question about whether you coordinate with Farm Trails in other areas, and just how great it would be if there was a California-wide farm trail someday.
Yeah, we collaborate with them. We offer kind of lessons learned, because we are the original Farm Trails. And we've thought in the past about licensing other ones, because it's like, wouldn't it be awesome not only if there was Farm Trails throughout California, but throughout the country? And we just simply haven't had the bandwidth. So we're available and networked, but we're not at that scale.
Yeah. Well, we have, let's see, just got another question. Bill, we have a few questions for you. One question was, those other nearby resources that you share, restaurant lists and so on, that you share with the public. How exactly do you share them? Do you have handouts, or are there PDFs that you email? How do you share those resources with visitors?
Well, on our website, there's an about page, and it's planning your visit. And there's several different areas. And one is restaurants in the area, and we list them in proximity to our venue, so that we list people as far away as 20 miles, but we say they're a little bit further to travel, but they're worth it. And the other venues, we looked at the same thing, what fits, what it would be a nice visit. And of course, we also are cognizant of, we don't want to steer people to places that is by appointment only, or they're only open on certain hours and not the ones that we're open. So yeah, those are all available on our website for download from anybody who wants them.
Great. And another question for Bill. A couple of people attending the webinar have questions about insurance. One is a farmer in Iowa who's really been having trouble finding insurance for hosting visitors on their farm. But I think just more broadly, do you have any insurance advice or considerations that you could share with the group?
Yeah, if you live on the property with your farm, you need a very specific type of insurance, which is called ranch insurance. And this includes, and because if you just get homeowners insurance and try and bundle it with your business, you're going to get kicked out because the homeowners don't want any form of business on your property. So you've got to go what's called a ranch insurance policy. And unfortunately, we just had a seminar that was also, hosted by this group that had an insurance agent on, and he said the number of companies that are now offering this ranch insurance has gone from 15 down to about 3. And I believe that the leading one is Nationwide. But here in California, they're dropping a lot of people because of our fire situation. And in other areas of the country, farms are they're not well understood by the underwriters in the insurance industry. And so therefore, a lot of big carriers that would normally be, a logical place to get your bundled insurance don't want to handle it if it has anything to do with a farm. So you really need to find an insurance agent who is a specialist in agritourism and or farm home bundled property, and it's usually called a ranch insurance policy, and you've got to find them, and they have to they'll coach you as to, let's look at your situation, and if you got rid of that, you'd be much more likely to get insurance than if you kept it. That sort of thing. They can be very helpful.
And I just posted a link into the chat that is to the agritourism page, resource page for risk management insurance, but Bill's specific and personal experience is super valuable. So thank you for sharing that with us.
I think we've gotten through a lot of the major questions. What time were you hoping to wrap up with this, Rachel?
Yeah, it's about that time. I'll just also mention that Carmen will be back joining us again on our final webinar, which is going to be on Monday, May 24th. The topic is community collaboration. So she'll be speaking a lot more about a farm trail as an organization and the services that we provide and things like that. So I know that there was some interest generated about the specifics of how Sonoma County Farm Trails operates. So that is another great opportunity for you to learn a little bit more and ask more questions as well. And I'm also just noticing somebody asked, oh, there we go, for Bill's contact info. We are going to provide the links and contact info to both of our speakers. And also we are asking if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to fill out just a very, very brief evaluation for this webinar. That would be very useful to us. And again, this and all of our other webinars are recorded and get posted to our website. So if you know somebody who this would be of interest to and they weren't available, please feel free to go ahead and share that with them and they can watch it at any time. I've gone back and watched webinars from a couple years ago, put on by the Agritourism program, and they are still very relevant and interesting. So thank you again to our speakers, Bill and Carmen. Thank you to Laura for your support today and to all of our participants for really great questions. And hopefully we'll see you back here at our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.